Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Preservation Board. I'm going to call a roll and establish who's here. And the order in which I call the roll will be also the order in which I do the votes tonight. Commissioner Allen, are you here?
Present.
Callow is here. Alderman Coder, are you here?
I'm here.
Congratulations on your baby.
Thank you, Chairman.
Commissioner Hamilton, are you here?
Here.
Congratulations on 11,000 new listings. Commissioner Colleen, are you here?
Present. Yep.
Commissioner Richardson, are you here?
Here.
Commissioner Robinson, are you here?
Commissioner Robinson is here.
Tony. Okay. Did I overlook any commissioners? Okay, I don't think I did. Commissioners, take a look at the agenda. Tell me if this is what you want to see on the agenda today, and if this is the order in which you want to hear it, and if any of you need to recuse yourselves from any item that's on this agenda. Commissioners? Okay, then this will be our agenda. Our first item of business, commissioners, is in regards to the minutes for the May 23rd and June 27th meetings. Do I hear a motion regarding them?
Mr. Chairman, may I interrupt? I realized today that there was a minor error on the May minutes under the 33 Westmoreland agenda item. The applicant should have read PK Construction and Tim Dolan. So we'd like to make that correction.
Any further corrections,
No.
commissioners? Okay, now do I hear a motion regarding either May 23rd or June 27th or both? Hearing no motion, we will move on to the agenda. First item.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, the minutes are approved for May 23rd, 2022 and June 27th, 2022. Moving down, agenda item A, 2351, 2353, Virginia. I'm sorry, before we begin that, Director Listow, would you please give instructions about comments?
Yes, I'd like to advise all of the participants that today's meeting is being recorded. And if you would like to speak on any particular agenda item, please put your full name, first and last names, and the address of the agenda item in the chat. And we will call on you when we come to public comment for that agenda item. Comments submitted through the chat will not become part of the public record. Additionally, the chat is closed to the public. Only the co-hosts, Bob and I, will be seeing the comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, agenda item A.
I can do it. Just, you know, I will, sorry. Okay, can you hear me okay?
So nobody could decide who was Jan Cameron today?
So I will be doing all of the presentations this evening. So
Okay.
it'll be this evening. So I'm going to run through all of them. It was a staff, of course, we all did our various reports, but I'll be doing the presentations this evening. So I'll try to do my usual speedy presentations and we'll just do what we can. So I share my screen. Can you see the board meeting PowerPoint, everybody?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. I will begin. And I'll get the right screen. Okay, first up, we have two preliminary reviews. The first item is at 2351 and 2353 Virginia. This is over in the Tower Grove East Local Historic District. This is an existing two-family single story building. As you can see, this is the current condition. The building suffered a fire recently. The proposal, in short, will be to completely renovate the single-story structure, add a second story to it, and have two townhomes. So I'm going to go through the PowerPoint, give you some context, show you the design, and we'll go from there. This is the property in question. It's located at Virginia and Sydney, next to the Tower Grove East Community Garden. Here's some existing shots of the property showing you its condition. It's a 1963 building, so it's not a sort of historic building within the local district. Going around the building, you see what we're dealing with. This is the proposed floor plan. As you can see, it'll be again 2 fee simple townhouses. Next up, the applicant has worked well with staff, and we greatly appreciate that. We had kind of an evolution of design. This was the original submission, and staff worked with the applicant to kind of refine the design to have it mesh, we think, more in keeping with the Tower Grove East built context. This was the first revision, and this is where we're at. We think that this design really does fit well with the streetscape and the rest of the neighborhood. The first floor is again staying, and they're adding on to the top. So they're going to paint the first floor brick to kind of match the siding on the second floor. Here is the proposed front facade and rear facade. North facade, south facade. Here's kind of a basic streetscape showing the elevation in relation to the neighboring properties. And then give you some street level context. The property is located here on the left-hand side. The house behind it is the next parcel over. It's set back somewhat. The context of the street does have a varying setback. So even though the footprint is not changing, the larger building fits well with the context of the block because there really is a varying setback along that side of the street. This kind of shows you various setbacks along there. And then across the street, you kind of have that standard setback for a St. Louis neighborhood. They're pretty much all in line. But the side that the building is on, it fits fine given the varied setbacks and massing along there. Across the street, we have some unusual buildings. There's a odd 3rd-story addition on this property on the right side. And again, we're back to the intersection and looking east. So again, let's just give you context showing what we're dealing with. Staff felt that overall, the building complied with the Tower Grove East Historic District standards. Again, the applicant worked well with us to refine the design. Massing, the scale, proportion, really all aligns. I do know that the neighborhood is in full support of the project, but we thought given the unusual nature of the proposal, we thought it should come to the board for final approval. So given all of that, we do recommend that the board grant prelim approval for the renovation in addition to the duplex at 2351 53 Virginia, with the condition that final plans materials are reviewed and approved by CRO.
Thank you, Bob. Commissioners, does anybody have a question for Bob or a staff member?
I do. Is there any opposition to this in the audience?
There's no one in the chat that's,
All right, that's my fault.
there's no one in the chat who's asked to speak on this.
With that, I move to approve.
Commissioners, is there a second to that motion?
I'm sorry, is that with the conditions that Bob had about final drawings, details, and exterior materials?
Yes, sir. Yeah, as Bob Bettis noted in his presentation, yes, move to approve with those conditions. Thank you.
Second.
Commissioners, is there any discussion? Hearing none, I will call a roll. Commissioner Allen, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Chair abstains on this vote. Alderman Coder, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Commissioner Hamilton, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Commissioner Colleen, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Commissioner Richardson, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Commissioner Robinson, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Commissioners, the ayes have it. The motion is adopted. Thank you very much. Calling agenda item B, also a preliminary review, 2308 Menard. Let's see if we can get Bob Bettis to do this one.
He's available, turns out. Okay, so next up, we have a prelim review to construct a new single-family house in the Soulard Certified Local Historic District. There has been kind of a back and forth to where we are at this point in time. I don't want to belabor the background. We had a 2-story, then a 1-story, and now we're back to this submittal, and the staff is satisfied with. You should have also received copy of the from the SRG in relation to their concerns with the project, but overall they are okay with what you're about to see, as is staff. So going through it, this is the site in question, empty lot on Menard. Majority of the block, except for the end structure, is all modern infill. And it shows you the location in context on the street. This is across Menard and up the street on Menard. This is, on the left is the proposed front elevation. The architect worked well with us to just kind of refine the design to closely match the model example. We appreciate that. It's been good to work with, and as has the owner of the property. So this is the front facade of the building. Here is the streetscape. One of the concerns, I believe, in the letter from the SRG, which you all have, was the slope of that front roof. I think that it's actually a little more shallow than that. I think it's just the way that this is given in perspective on the streetscape. So staff is okay with how this was presented. Here is the site plan. It's a weird L-shaped lot, but the garage is in the back and it also complies with the code. Here is the side elevations. The brick will return the appropriate distance on both sides. The rear addition will have a vinyl siding. That is currently allowed by code. The SRG's letter did state that they would prefer it to be a hardy siding, but as submitted, staff is okay with the vinyl usage, 4-inch lap, which is fine. Here is your garage. And here is back to the proposal. So again, going through the code, we feel that it really does meet all of the applicable design rules for new construction. Ratio, the windows in the front, that was one thing we're concerned about. That was adjusted to meet our satisfaction. Yeah, overall, we're in support. So unless you have questions for me, staff recommends approval of the design for the new construction. It says single family, I'm sorry, it says, yeah, that's correct. For the single family house at 2308 Menard, with the stipulation that final plans and materials be reviewed and approved by CRO.
Commissioners, any questions of Bob or a member of the staff?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, just a small question for Bob. I can't see the label for the foundation material. I assume it's poured concrete, but I'm just wondering if the front facing is different than the side facing. Thank you.
It'll honestly, it'll look like the property next door, which is the allowed face material for foundation. So I believe it's a poured concrete front, which is allowed, but yeah, it'll look similar to what is next door.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I have a few questions, Bob. Mike here. Will we get an historic looking front door on this project?
Yeah, that's one of the details we'll work out then. We'll make sure that we have the appropriate door with either a 3/4 or a half full height door. We'll make sure it looks appropriate.
Okay, and you said the neighborhood would prefer cement board where they show siding?
Yes, sir. That's you should have received a correspondence today.
But vinyl is allowed by their code?
Yes, sir. They are in the process of revising their code where they are going to remove vinyl as an appropriate material for the sides of the building. So even though it is currently allowed, they would prefer to see it be a cementitious hardy siding. Okay.
And then will that front door actually be recessed?
Yes, that's a recessed opening. What you're seeing along the sides is kind of the framing around the door, but it is a recessed door.
And you'll work with them on the details that they get that recess right.
Yes, sir.
And actual arched windows, they're really going to do that?
That's what's in the plans.
I'll be darned. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any further questions? What do we have in the waiting room, Meg?
There is no one in the waiting room and no one decided to speak on this.
Is the applicant present?
I'm sorry. The applicants are present if you wish to ask them questions, but yeah, the architect and the owner of the property is here.
Commissioner, do we have any questions for the applicant?
I'm curious if they're willing to forego their vinyl for hardy board.
Okay, let's call the applicant.
Yeah, if that's preferred, I'm willing to do that.
And this is Julie Hanson. She is the owner of the property. She has been working with staff from the get-go along with Jason Plow, the architect. So Julie says she's willing to go.
Was that enough of an assurance? Would you
Yes,
like
sir.
something else? Okay. Any other questions from Ms. Hanson? Okay, thank you, commissioners. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Alderman?
All right, I move that the Preservation Board grant preliminary approval of the project with the condition that the vinyl siding instead be hardy board at the request of the neighborhood, and that Cultural Resource Office review and approve final design details, exterior materials and colors.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the roll. Commissioner Allen, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
The chair abstains on this vote. Alderman Coder?
Yes.
Commissioner Hamilton?
Yes.
Commissioner Colleen?
Yes.
Commissioner Richardson?
Yes.
Commissioner Robinson?
Yes.
The commissioners, the ayes have it. This motion is approved. Thank you. We're now going to move into the phase of our meeting where we hear appeals of staff and director denials. We'll do things a tiny bit differently this time in that we will ask those who testify to state their full names for the record and to affirm or swear that they're telling the truth. We'd like to build a good record, so staff will introduce everything they want for the record, and we'll ask the appellants to do the same. First up, 2300 LaSalle Street.
Okay, Bob Bettis with staff. I will tell the truth. I need to enter in ordinances 64689 as amended by 64925, which is our enabling ordinance. Then 69112 as amended by 70926, which is the Lafayette Square ordinance. My presentation, the PowerPoint, and the agenda. Okay, so this might look familiar to some of you. This proposal initially came in back in April of 2019. At that time, it was a 4-story kind of a mixed-use structure based on a warehouse located at 1117 Mississippi. This was the basis for the model example. In this part of the neighborhood, you don't have to replicate, but this is the basis for your design. So the initial design, and this is the site in question, the initial design was more of a reference to that industrial feel. We received a new application in May of this year that was a slightly different design. The prelim had expired, plus there was a new design, so we felt it was best to bring this to the board. And the reason it's being brought to you is because it was an admin denial. So it is being brought to you as an appeal based on the denial of the time constraints under the admin denial code. So this is the site. Again, this is still a model example for the building. Here is the proposed site plan. When you saw this in 2019, the design was not as formal. You just saw the building. What I was told was you did not actually select the entire site plan, which included the parking. One thing I want to note in this site plan, and I'll circle back around to this, the 111 Missouri building, which is the stone German building, often called the Ruin or the Folly, is a separate ownership from the proposed project. It is very close to the parking lot. And so we'll get into that later, but I want to show you the site plan so you get some context of where we're at in relation to the old stone building that we all know and love because it's a really important structure. So this shows you the current proposal on the north facade. And in relation to the original proposal, the main difference, the original proposal had glass in between the brick portions of the facade. This new proposal kind of eliminates that. Also, there's more of a storefront element at the first floor. This is pretty much strictly just going to be residential. So it's more of a townhouse vibe versus that industrial feel of the original submission. So that's the thing. The overall form is the same, but again, the design has been tweaked to just go for more residential. Here's the elevations, original current. Again, overall, it's pretty close to what was there before. Here's the elevation. This one shows the parking at the back of the property. which will necessitate a bit of a retaining wall on the eastern edge.
Hey,
So-
Leonard, just, yeah.
I'm sorry. So here is some context for you. This is it's the site right adjacent to the other large apartment building being constructed in the area in that old Praxair site. So you can see what's going on. It's more context. A lot of it, there's some historic warehouse space along Jefferson and LaSalle that's all staying, and that's kind of the inspiration for that. To the left is the current condition of the German stone house. It's kind of fallen into some disrepair, so it's covered in ivy. We're concerned about its condition and how that will relate to the new construction. Here's some more context. And then back to this. So overall, staff is okay with the design. In terms of how it relates to the code, again, we feel that it's appropriate. There is some deviation in the sidewalk treatment. We're gonna ask for a more detail to show exposed aggregate. We review the final plans again. And then also there's some minor issues with how the parking lot is laid out, but the issue with the parking lot is it's kind of recessed in the ground. So you're not gonna really see it too much from the street. So staff really isn't too concerned with the treatment of like adding parking islands in there to meet the code. Again, what we do want to emphasize though is we are very concerned with the retaining wall and how it's going to impact the German building, because it's roughly, we think about 5 feet from that structure. So we just want to make sure when we approve final designs, we have, structural plans that show how that wall is not going to negatively impact that building. So that's one thing we want to work with the applicant on moving forward to ensure that that's going to be not impacted. So we do know that Lafayette Square is in support of the project as submitted. So that's good. So based on those findings, we recommend that the board overturn the administrative denial to construct a multi-family residence with the conditions that the final details regarding the exterior materials, sidewalk finish, landscaping, and for the protection of the adjacent stone house to be completed in coordination with CRO staff.
Bob, to clarify, you want us to overturn the administrative denial and grant preliminary approval of this design, is that right?
Yes, sir, that's in a sense. And then also make sure that we do want it on record about some protection or coordination with our staff about how they're going to deal with the stone house.
Okay, commissioners, anybody have questions for Bob?
I do, Bob. I see brick on that facade. What's the other material that looks like it's bigger?
I'm sorry, it's like what? I apologize.
On their facade drawings, it looks like they have 2 materials. Is it brick and then CMU or some kind of bigger block? What is that?
It's a CMU paneling. Yes, sir.
CMU panel?
I'll tell you what, this was not one I prepared. So if you give me 1 second, I'm going to verify one point and I will not speak so flippantly. How about that?
Did Bob mention if he was coming back?
I am
think
back.
Oh, good.
That's where I checked one thing. Again, I apologize for not knowing that offhand. Again, I did not prepare this presentation, so I do apologize. Let me just verify one point so we're all on the same page.
While he looks, does everybody else notice the uncanny resemblance of Jeff Vines and Shane Cohn these days? I mean, they could be siblings.
Yeah, I tell you what,
I thought that was Shane. I went to high school with Shane Cohn. I thought that was him.
Mr. Calla or Mr. Clean, the applicant is here. If he would so kind as to come online and tell us what that material would be, that would be really helpful.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'm curious what the windows and the balconies are made out of too.
Okay, let's have the appellant.
It's AJ out with me and Leonard out with me. I'm gonna let Leonard talk. Go ahead.
So the material besides the brick is a cement board sided.
Oh, okay, great. And then the balconies?
I believe the balconies are made out of wood.
The railing as well?
The railing is a metal It's a metal railing.
Okay, great. And then the windows, do you remember what you specified there?
I think those are aluminum.
Aluminum. And Bob, is that approved by staff, aluminum windows?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. That's all my questions. Thank you, guys.
Barb, do you know who answered those questions?
No, I was looking, you saw me clicking through. Was that whoever is Joseph's iPad? It
Yeah,
sounds
that's
like
added.
voice.
Who are you?
That was Leonard Adewunmi speaking earlier, but it's both me and Leonard here. AJ Adewunmi and Leonard Adewunmi.
Okay, do you both swear to tell the truth?
We do.
We do.
You might ask the director if any of those names, if she needs them spelled correctly. I don't know if she has them.
We've
She
got
has-
them.
We're okay. We got them.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions for the appellants?
Yes, since this is Lafayette Square and we hear a lot about appropriate colors here, what color will these concrete panels or cementitious panels be when this is completed?
Yeah, they're supposed to match the brick cover. So they're kind of uniform.
Okay.
Barb, is there anything else we need on the record from the appellants?
If they've answered your questions to your, I mean, they're making their own record, so whatever you require of them.
Is there anything else the appellants would like to add for the record?
Not at this time.
Okay. Commissioner Hamilton, have you got a motion?
Yes, my motions that the Preservation Board grant preliminary approval to construct the multifamily building with condition that the final details regarding exterior material, sidewalk finish, landscaping for the protection of the adjacent stone house be completed in coordination with Cultural Resources staff, office staff.
Is it your understanding that your motion also includes overturning the administrative denial?
Yes.
Cool. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Okay, commissioners, hearing no discussion, I'm going to call a roll on this motion. Commissioner Allen, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
The chair abstains on this vote. Alderman Coder, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Commissioner Hamilton, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Commissioner Killeen, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Commissioner Richardson, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Commissioner Robinson, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Commissioners, there are 6 yes votes to overturn the administrative denial and to grant preliminary approval of this matter. Thank you very much. Moving to agenda item D, 1201 Dolman.
Bettis with staff again, will tell the truth. Need to enter in the enabling ordinance 64689 as amended by 64925. The Lafayette Square ordinance 69112 as amended by 70926. My presentation, the PowerPoint, and my agenda. Okay. This is a relatively straightforward project. We have some new construction on Dolman. The property on the right is requesting a variance to install an 8-foot fence versus a 6-foot fence, which is the max allowed by the Lafayette Square Code. Here, can you give some context real quick on where it's at location-wise? So the crux of it is this: there is a new house being built right next door. It's slightly raised, and then on the right there is kind of an outdoor garden that the applicants would like to have screened a little bit more for some more privacy. On the right, there will be a 6-foot gate at the building line, and then going back towards the alley will be the 8-foot fence, and that's where the variance is required. It's not going to be very street visible, but staff just could not approve it as submitted due to the 2-foot discrepancy in the height. Lafayette Square is in support of the variance. Here's a site plan just kind of showing you the location where it's going to run, and then some more quick context. But overall, again, the only deviation, it's wood, it'll be appropriate looking, it's just that 2 fence. But based on that, since staff we can't approve it, we want you guys to, so Based on these findings, let's see here. Yep, sorry, sorry, my copy, I'm gonna read it verbatim, so pardon me. So, based on the preliminary findings, because the fence is not in compliance with the Lafayette Square Historic District standards, CRO recommends that the Preservation Board uphold the director's denial. Any questions?
Commissioners, questions?
Bob,
Yes.
is there any opposition to the fence in the neighborhood that's been expressed?
No, we don't. It's just one of those things where we got to run it through when it doesn't, it's not the biggest issue, but we don't want to prove it at the staff level.
Are there any speakers?
The owners are here, I believe.
Commissioners, do we need to hear from the appellant?
I don't think so, Mr. Chairman. I move that we overturn the director's denial and allow this fence to be built as presented.
Second.
Is there any discussion, commissioners? Hearing none, I'm going to call a roll on the motion. Commissioner Allen, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Chair abstains on this vote. Alderman Coder, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Commissioner Hamilton, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Commissioner Killeen, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Commissioner Richardson, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Commissioner Robinson, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Commissioners, I count 6 yes votes to overturn the denial and to uphold the appeal. So the appeal is upheld. Thank you very much. Calling next, 280 to 286 to Bolivar.
Okay. Again, Bob Best with staff. I will tell the truth. I need to enter in the Central West End Ordinance 56768 as amended by 69423. And then, of course, our enabling ordinance 64689 as amended by 64925. Presentation, PowerPoint, and my agenda. I'm sure you've all curious about this and why we were bringing it to you. So I'm just going to give you some context and I'm going to discuss staff's concerns. Okay, so this is the current site. It's right near the Metrolink line, right there at the Bolivar. So the mural itself will go on the white painted wall on the structure. So you're gonna hear some context giving you an idea where this is located. A lot of stuff going on right there. Great to see. Context looking.
Bob, just my ears were stopped up for a second. Did you say the mural would go on the wall?
Yes, the mural will be painted on the brick wall that you see on the screen, which is now painted white.
So there'll be a wall and then a mural?
There will be a mural on that wall,
Okay.
painted directly onto the surface of that wall.
Proceed.
Okay. This is the proposed mural. It will cover the length of the entire wall. And it's multicolored and it's pretty straightforward what they're proposing. And so this kind of shows you what's going on. The reason we brought this to you, it's for 2 reasons. We're not trying to regulate the content of a mural or to question the artist's sensibility and his design. The issue comes down to something that staff is seeing often, and it's regard to painting a brick on buildings. And so the reason we're bringing this to you is for 2 reasons. One is kind of we'll say it's a vague definition of art, specifically in the Central West End Code. The way it's written, it kind of opens things up to interpret what is art based on placement and how it's used on the building proper. They talk about it being a building element. Staff feels that a wall is a building element. And again, it's not about the content, it's about the letter of the Central West End Code and how they define art. Staff feels that by definition, it does not meet the definition of art. So that's where we're at in terms of that. Then the second thing, and it's really more important to how staff use the issue of painting a brick. Staff is seeing a lot of proposals lately for people who want to paint their brick buildings, be it unpainted or currently painted. In this neighborhood alone, we've had people who want to paint their buildings jet black. They want to paint them, bright yellow, pink. And the way the code reads for painting a currently painted brick says that the color should draw from a palette that fits the neighborhood and style of architecture. So again, we don't have a problem with the content of what is being presented artistically. It's just that when we have yellows, reds, greens, and all that, lovely art. And don't get us wrong in terms of how we all maybe do a mural. We are concerned that at the staff level, if someone were to point to the design and say, well, it has yellow paint in it, red paint, why can't I do that to my house? So therein lies just, again, it's not a problem. It's just that staff is seeing this more and more. And you may have all seen that as well. Painting a brick has become very in vogue, and we're trying our best to dissuade people from doing that. And that comes down to, these codes that are written kind of, tightly is a good way to put it. So we're just looking for some direction on how to go with this one. So that is why we brought it to the board, because we're concerned about just the palette itself and how it affects the larger scale of painting a brick within the neighborhood. So given that, we're recommending that the board uphold the director's denial to install the mural on the south side of the building at 28086 Bolivar. This does not comply with the Central West End Historic District standards. I do not have a formal comment from the neighborhood. I have spoken to the owner of the building. He's okay with it. He said he had a handshake deal with the artist. He could remove it tomorrow if he wanted to, but that's where we're at.
Commissioners, questions for Bob?
I guess I don't understand how we're defining the word art. I mean, art, to me, art is something different to everyone. This looks fine. I think this faces where that Metrolink is, correct? Facing the art museum?
Yes. Yeah.
Or the history, whatever that museum is.
Yes.
So I guess it makes me feel very uncomfortable trying to define what art is. And then this is a commercial building. This is not a residential building. If someone trying to paint their whole house white, and if the owner of the building's fine with it and there's no opposition, I think it's a slippery slope trying to tell people what art looks like and what it doesn't. So that's my opinion.
Other questions for Bob, commissioners?
Chairman, was the wall, we're looking at the picture on the left, was the wall previously painted just a white? Okay.
Yeah. Over the years, it's been painted kind of a gray, and then there was a painted sign on it at one point in time, but this is the current condition on the wall.
And this is Commissioner Richardson. That was going to be my question. And if it's previously painted, it doesn't seem like we'd have the same slippery slope of people wanting to paint their brick in the first time around. This one's just a previously painted wall that now is going to have birds or whatever they are on it.
Further questions for Bob? Okay, is the appellant present?
Yeah, the applicant is here. Jonas should be in the room still. Jonas, you there?
I am here. Can you hear me?
Yes. Can you tell us your name, please?
Yes, I am Jonas Manrique.
And is your testimony going to be the truth?
Yes, the truth.
What would you like us to do?
So I am the artist that proposed the mural. I would like the permission to paint the mural. One argument I have is that if people are willing to paint their buildings a certain color, it's kind of difficult to go ahead with that if they are not considered an artist with previous works. I currently have a previous work in Central West End, and I've also been interviewed for a Central West End blog, and I've been invited to the Paint Lewis along the flood wall. So if you're getting proposals to paint buildings, I said jet black, is it coming from somebody with recognized work, or is it just your average citizen? That is my argument as of right now.
Commissioners, questions of the artist? Okay, thank you very much. Commissioner Hamilton, you look like you might have a motion.
Yes, I do. I'm sorry, there are people in the room to speak.
Before I do that, there are people here to speak?
Yes, we have Jeff Vines and Randy Vines signed in.
Are you guys going to testify against each other?
No, who's first anyway? Is it me?
Why don't you both talk?
All right. Well, okay, I'll
Jeff and Randy
start.
Vines, you swear to tell the truth?
Yes. Hi, I'm Jeff Vines. I'm a property owner in the Central West End Historic District. And I urge you to allow this mural to be painted on the building. I think it would be a huge improvement, a huge enhancement for the commercial district and for the city. I'm scratching my head as to why the color should blend in with the existing architecture. I think that kind of defeats the purpose. The purpose of public art is to stand out and draw eyes to it. I think this proposal definitely achieves that. I think it's eye-catching and attractive and definitely beats the current drab wall that we're looking at. And the fact that the wall is white, I wouldn't say that blends in any better to the neighborhood. I have been involved heavily in a couple of mural projects on our building on Cherokee Street, which I think most people would agree that it was transformative on a formerly blank wall. And it has really not only enhanced the attractiveness, the aesthetic of the block, but also has actually increased foot traffic and business to our shop and others on that corner, because it's become a landmark and an attraction. And then just last week, the first mural in the city of Clayton overlooking DeMond Park was completed. It was an over 2-year project that I helped initiate. And you'd think Clayton, if anyone has a problem, it's the NIMBYs in Clayton, and it is overwhelmingly revered and celebrated by the neighborhood. So I would say that there's precedence for having attractive artwork around the city. St. Louis is really way behind other cities in terms of public art. So let's do up these blank facades and add a little color to our cityscape. That's all. Thank you.
Randy Vines? I like you better this way, but you should unmute.
Sorry about that. Can you hear me okay?
Let me ask you first before you begin.
My name is Randy Vines. I'm also a property owner. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I'm also a property owner.
Your brother's messing with you.
In the Central West End Historic District. And I will echo everything my brother just said. And also with respect to the Central West End Historic District guidelines, or whatever the gray area was related to that. There are a few cities more historic than Philadelphia and Baltimore, Brooklyn. And these are all cities where murals and public art abound. They are all over the place. They adorn every blank canvas wall that you can imagine in neighborhoods of every vintage. And this seems to me like a no-brainer overlooking a busy Metrolink station in a very dynamic neighborhood that is constantly changing and peppered with new construction left and right. I see no reason why this mural should be opposed. And I think this art is high quality and the artist has a justifiable track record. And that is all.
Thank you very much. Meg, has anybody else signed up to speak? Okay, commissioners, Commissioner, where'd you go? Commissioner Hamilton, your motion?
Yes, I like the art, by the way. I think art's different in everyone's eyes and I like it. It's bright. Anyway, my motion is the Preservation Board overturn the director's denial of the application and they're allowed to paint the mural on the side of the commercial building.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion?
Who was the second? I'm sorry, Chairman.
Alan.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, Commission, there's a motion on the floor that's been made and seconded. I hear no further discussion on the matter. Commissioner Allen, on this motion, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
The chair passes on this. Alderman Coder, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Commissioner Hamilton, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Commissioner Killeen, do you vote yes or no? Mike?
I'm sorry, I had it muted. Yes. Yes.
Okay, Commissioner Richardson has left the meeting. Commissioner Robinson, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
The chair withdraws his pass and changes it to a yes vote. Commissioners, I count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 yes votes. The motion carries. The appeal is upheld and the director's denial is overturned. Calling next 6170 Delmar.
Okay, Bob Bettis again. I swear to tell the truth. Need to enter in the enabling ordinance 64689 as amended by 64925. And then the Skinker de Bolivar Local Historic District Ordinance 57688 as amended by 70821. This is a pretty straightforward one as well. There is a proposal for a new sign on Delmar for the Kingside Diner. On your screen, you can see the current condition and the proposed placement of the sign of the storefront. Here's some context. We're in a very heavily commercial area along Delmar, obviously. Context looking east and west, seeing a multitude of different sorts of signs. This is the proposed sign. There's channel lit signs. The Kingside part is backlit. And then you have the neon express portion of the sign. So you have two sorts of internally lit sign elements for this proposal. The issue is that the Skinker Bolivar Code specifically says that you can only have externally lit signs. Staff cannot approve a sign that comes to us that has internally lit elements. It's that straightforward. The design is wonderful. It complies with all other aspects of the sign code, but it is internally lit. Staff can't approve it. That's why it's come before you. The neighborhood is in full support of the project as submitted. But again, staff just is unable to approve it because it does, again, not comply with the code. It's pretty much signage, just put out there, signage, it's blanket for the entire neighborhood. They don't distinguish between Delmar and other parts of the neighborhood. So it's a blanket sign code for the entire neighborhood. And obviously you have different contexts and signs for the neighborhood. So that being said, since it does say a specific direction for lighting, staff still recommends that the board uphold the director's denial of the permit to install one internally lit wall sign as the project does not comply with the Skinker Bolivar Historic District standards.
Questions for Bob by commissioners? Okay, let's hear from the appellant.
I'm not sure if there was some, I'm not sure if anybody's here for it.
Okay, is there anybody else signed up to speak?
I'm Aaron Teitelbaum's here from the owner of Kingside.
Okay, great.
Hi there, what would you like us, well, first of all, is your testimony going to be the truth?
Yes, my name's Aaron Teitelbaum and my testimony will be the truth.
Thank you. What would you like us to do?
So I am looking for a variance on this sign. It is a sign that is congruent with our current concept that we have multiple of these. And we think that the sign will add a beautiful look to the neighborhood. We have one already in the Central West End. This sign was in the Central West End beforehand. It's the sign that's being moved.
Questions for the appellant? Okay, is anybody signed up to speak, Meg? Randy
Sorry,
Vines.
Randy Vines.
Go ahead,
Okay, you hear me okay? Randy Vines, I just spoke before. For what it's worth, I was the former chair of the Skinker de Bolivar Commercial District, Delmar Commercial Committee. And I realize I'm very well aware of the ordinance in place for this side of Delmar. And I'm glad this came to the Preservation Board because if anything is deserving of a variance, in this instance, it's this agenda item. It makes perfect sense to have a sign as designed, as shown in the agenda here at this location. If you look at old photos from the 60s and 70s of the same stretch of Delmar, there are neon blade signs all up and down the street for as far as the eye can see. And I do think that is a portion of the historic code that needs to be revised. So I personally am in full support of this sign as designed.
Randy, will you take a question?
Sure.
If we granted a variance, what would the reason for the variance be?
Well, I don't know how legal and formal the language needs to be, but it seems pretty counterintuitive to deny a very vibrant, walkable commercial district the ability to have a sign outside a business. It just doesn't make sense. I mean, if you look at the before and after as proposed and what the historic district code allows, there's no doubt. I mean, it looks so much more complete with a sign. I mean, because the alternative would be one of those cheapy kind of vinyl window signs that we see way too much of around the city, and that just it leaves a transient kind of feel. It's less permanent, and I think the investment of a sign is a very, very proud statement of a good, solid business with a longer term commitment. And I will steal a line that I use often. A business with no sign is a sign of no business. And I think that it makes perfect sense on a colorful street like Delmar with tons of different kinds of signage all up and down the street, that this particular block should not be exempt from being able to show off its the diversity of businesses.
You probably listened to the testimony as closely or more closely than I did. Did you hear the appellant say that the sign was already constructed and was being moved from one location to another?
I did, yes.
That might in fact be a reason for a variance?
I would definitely agree with that, Chairman.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, may I just clarify one thing? The issue is not whether there can be a sign or not a sign, it's whether the sign is internally lit. I just wanted to make that clear for everyone.
Yes. And it would be whether or not whether or not we allow the installation of this internally lit sign that's in question. Is that correct?
Correct.
Cool. Commissioner Hamilton, you're on a roll today.
Okay. My motion is that the Preservation Board overturn the director's denial and permit them to install an internally lit wall sign. And that's all.
Second.
Is there discussion?
Who was the second? I'm sorry.
Alderman
Coder.
Coder.
Thank you, Joe.
Should we add per plans? Sorry, just so they can't add any sign.
Yes. Can you? Yeah.
Any discussion, commissioners? Hearing none, I'll call a roll. Commissioner Allen, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Chair abstains on this vote. Alderman Coder, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Commissioner Hamilton, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Commissioner Colleen, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Commissioner Robinson, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Commissioners, I count 5 yes votes on this appeal to uphold the appeal and overturn the denial. The motion carries. Thank you, commissioners. Calling agenda item G, 4241 Maryland.
Okay. It's the last one. I'm still Bob Bez. I'm still telling the truth. Entering in the enabling ordinance 64689 as amended by 64925. The Central West End Local Historic District Ordinance 56768 as amended by 69423. My presentation, the agenda, and the PowerPoint. Okay, 4221 Maryland. What we have is a proposal to install a rooftop deck on the 2-story rear portion of the property in front of you. It's the red brick building. This kind of just gives you some brief context. The picture on the right is a winter view. The deck in question will be placed right up here. So we'll kind of go through it real quick. Here is your site. It's kind of at the eastern edge of the Central West End district. But I do want to note there's a property that's the empty lot next to it is a house at the back of the lot. It's kind of an unusual situation, but that's why we have this large side yard to the west of the subject property. Here's context on the block. It's a great intact block, standard, beautiful Central West End stuff. So this is current views from the sidewalk and the street back to the area of the proposed work. The rooftop deck itself will sit on top of that parapet wall. So you're going to see the structure of the deck, you're going to see the handrail, and then you're going to see this would also necessitate the removal of the coping tiles, kind of modifying the appearance of that back wall. But you can see it is a street visible deck. The Central West End Code says if you're going to build a deck, it needs to be compatible. But they want you to screen it if possible. Obviously, you can't screen this rooftop deck because that would be a really tall wall. So in question, this is why we're bringing it before you. Here's a drawing of it. It's a modern metal cable handrail system with horizontal railing. So it's modern, although it may seem very simple. It's still kind of a modern aesthetic, one of the kind of honestly an older home. So staff feels it's not really in keeping with the architecture of the building, given the line of sight. Here's a couple of elevations. The section detail shows you how it's going to sit on top of the parapet wall. We had spoken with the architect and asked if it was possible just to move it inside the parapet and then perhaps do a simple black metal vertical handrail as a way to minimize the appearance from the street. The architect said that the homeowners would like to proceed with this. So we did try and work with them to kind of modify the design, but it comes down to, I think, just the way it would be mounted to the roof and putting it on the flat surface versus the top of the parapet and ease of construction. But they are here, they can state their case. And this is kind of the view from up top. And so we're back to the street view. So again, staff feels it does not comply, that it kind of modifies the appearance of the roof from the street. And then also that it's the deck itself is modern and not really in keeping with the style of building. So that's why we are going to recommend that the board uphold the denial of a permit to construct a street visible rooftop deck as design and placement are not compatible with the Central West End Local Historic District standards. You should have gotten correspondence. The neighborhood group is in support of the applicant. So they're fine with the design given its visibility. I'm not sure if you've seen that or not, but the neighborhood is in support of it. So the applicant is here to talk to you and answer questions.
First questions for Bob.
I've got one, Chairman. Bob, it's Jack. So if the applicant had, I guess, taken your suggestion on the design of the railing, would it still wouldn't be in compliance with standards, would it?
We wanted it off the top of that parapet wall if possible. That was kind of the crux is when because now you're going to see the entire structure of the deck itself. So if you go back to this, I mean, you're going to see essentially the deck structure inside. It's going to be, a sheath with wood. But you're still going to, so you would see more of it. It kind of changes that massing on top of that back portion. So had they moved it off the parapet wall and changed the handrail, we probably could have worked with them on it, but as we could not.
It had to be, okay, thank you. Nothing further.
Bob, is that an addition behind the railing in your rear elevation there? Does that already exist? So we're not talking about that, right?
I apologize. I'm sorry, which one?
So, okay, that's the, okay.
I think
the photos answered my question. So we're just talking about the deck. It's not an addition.
Yes, sir. Yeah, gotcha.
Okay, thank you.
Bob, there are many buildings in the Central West End with these sort of built up half stories in the front and flat roofs behind like this. Is there another deck like that Crow or Preservation Board has considered in recent years?
I've only been back a few months. I don't offhand. I'm sorry. I know I did ask around and we just couldn't think of any that had this level of visibility. So I'm not offhand.
You asked Jan. So that probably
we asked Jan and Andy, of course, who's been around. So
all right.
And yeah.
Good enough.
I guess I have a follow-up. If there wasn't if there was a house next door to this at street level, not recessed, we wouldn't even be considering this, would we?
No, not at all. It would be approved.
It's just because that house is back, so we've got a street view.
Yes, sir.
Got it.
Further questions of Bob? Okay, let's call the appellant and swear him in and see what he wants us to do.
Hello, this is Tom Niemeyer, and I swear to tell the truth.
Great.
I can address a couple things. First, I'd like to talk about why the deck is positioned on top of the parapet wall. There's a couple reasons for that. One, they have a spray-on roofing over what's probably like built up or rolled asphalt roofing. They have a spray-on type of roofing. And one of the issues with that, from what at least I've heard, is that if there is a leak in the roof with this type of spray-on roofing, that it can be very difficult to trace. So we were pretty nervous about building on top of this roof. Well, for one, structurally, it'd be better to bear on the parapet and span across that roof so that you're not putting any penetrations in the roof. So that was really one of our main objectives, is to try to stay away from the roof and span all the way across. That also makes it easier for that water to get out with nothing really hitting the roof. The water can go through the deck, hit the roof, and run off just like it does now. The railing was really a request of the client. For one, they have modern tastes, and two, it does dramatically increase the visibility through that versus a vertical wood picket. So I'm happy to answer any other questions anyone would have.
Commissioners, questions of Tom? Thank you, Tom. Meg, is everybody signed to speak? Okay, then. Commissioner Colleen, you got a motion?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I move that we overturn the director's denial of this design and allow it to be constructed as presented.
Second. I second.
Is there discussion?
With the overwhelming approval of the neighborhood, and you know, they do watch things very closely over there. If they're happy with it, yeah, I think we let it go.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'm going to call a roll on this motion. Commissioner Allen, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Chair abstains on this vote. Alderman Coder, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Commissioner Hamilton, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Commissioner Colleen, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Commissioner Robinson, do you vote yes or no? Tony, you still here? Okay, commissioners.
He's gone. He's gone.
I count 4 yes votes. The motion carries. The appeal is upheld and the denial is overturned. Commissioners, I see nothing else left on our agenda. Director Lestow, did you have anything you wanted to add?
No, sir.
You want us to keep talking until the parking garage closes?
No, we'd really like to get out of the parking garage tonight. Thank you.
Okay, then do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second, third.
Without objection, we stand adjourned. Thank you, commissioners. Thank you, everyone.